Well, okay. We are really honored, doubly blessed here. We have Chairwoman Ros-Lehtinen here. I'll give a brief introduction. She, of course, was the chairman of the committee, and now is working as the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on the Middle East, which is somewhat relevant. More important, she and Brad Sherman worked closely together in the previous Congress on 1280, and there is no one more focused on the problem of the Middle East and protecting our allies against Iran, I suspect, than the Congresswoman from Florida.
Thank you.
Where many of my tribe still reside.
Not enough. They're moving to Boca.
I'm sure they're both a blessing and a burden. But on that note,
blessing.
They're a blessing.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and I'm so pleased to be here with you this afternoon and joining Henry and Ambassador Wallace. And I know you just heard from Brad Sherman. We have worked together on many a piece of legislation. So what a delight to talk about a topic that greatly impacts our national security, but may be getting overlooked. Thank you to the National Nonproliferation Policy Education Center for convening this forum, highlighting the dangers facing us in the nonproliferation sector, and for inviting us all to speak. When I was chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I introduced with Howard Berman, a good friend of mine, the ranking member, a legislation to amend the Atomic Energy Act of 1954, to require congressional approval of agreements for peaceful nuclear cooperation with foreign countries. And I'm happy to announce that we are currently working on in Congress to introduce this important legislation this very week, in large part due to the evolving dynamics and the uncertainty of our policy in the Middle East. And what is the principal policy and purpose of this bill? Well, it's to give Congress more oversight, more of an opportunity to look at what we're doing when the administration wishes to consider nuclear cooperation agreements with other countries. The Obama administration's misguided policy on Iran is a game changer in the region. If Iran is allowed to continue to enrich, and you know that's been an ongoing controversy. The U.S. says one thing, the Iranians quite clearly say another. It may lead to a nuclear arms race, bless you, in the region, as most Arab states will fear an Iranian bomb as much as we do, and they will say, and they have said very clearly, if Iran goes, so will we. So this bill will strengthen protections in place that prevent peaceful nuclear cooperation from being misused for military purposes. And we have seen this time and again, that the Obama administration negotiates the nuclear cooperation agreements with countries that have an unacceptable proliferation record, largely for political or other reasons, unrelated to the nuclear cooperation itself. And I know not everybody's in love with the bill. That's why I'm keeping some of the guys employed. But this was clearly the case with the U.S.-Russian nuclear cooperation agreement. Let us not forget that this agreement was previously written by the Bush administration in 2008 because the president could not certify under the Iran, North Korea, Syria Non-Proliferation Act that Russia was not providing nuclear, missile, and advanced conventional weapons to Iran. Couldn't certify that, so that's why the agreement was withdrawn. These issues continue to be a concern today. 2 months ago, Mike Rogers of Alabama, the chairman of the Armed Services Subcommittee on Strategic Forces, sent a letter with me to Secretary Kerry expressing concern that Russia may sell to Iran advanced weapons technology, including the S-300 or its equivalent, surface-to-air a missile system. Vladimir Putin, as we know, continues to help Assad by providing weapons and support, helping this murderous regime kill more innocent Syrians each and every day. And whenever the United States decides to forego, to forge agreements with other countries, we've got to take into account the entire package, not pick and choose little parts that sound good. We can't ignore a country's human rights record. I don't think we can. We can't ignore the relationship of that country with rogue regimes. We can't overlook that. In the case of Vietnam, for example, we have a double whammy. First, the proposed text of the 123 agreement reportedly exempts Vietnam from abiding by the gold standard. Abiding by the gold standard should be our only policy when it comes to nonproliferation. Our foreign policy objectives are weakened when we have non-Middle East countries exempt from the gold standard compared to Middle East countries. What kind of message does that send to our allies, like Jordan, the United Arab Emirates? Secondly, in Vietnam, people are not free to practice their religion. The trafficking in persons and the sexual exploitation of children is a travesty. Now, my husband is a Vietnam combat veteran. He was severely injured in battle fighting for the ideals of our founding fathers. And all of those sacrifices of people like my husband and the guys he served with, they should not be in vain. This is not a country, Vietnam is not a country that shares our common ideals and that shares our principles. It doesn't mean that everyone needs to be like us, but we need to trust that country. We need to say, you know, this is a country where they're going to have the right to do all kinds of things with this program. Is this a country who's a real partner and a real ally? So I was pleased to co-sponsor the Vietnam Human Rights Act. I believe that human rights must be still a cornerstone of American foreign policy objectives. We need to do everything to advance democracy, to promote freedom, to advance human rights in every country. And let us not forget about that. It's not just about dollars and cents. And when we talk about Iran, we talk about what a bad actor it is in terms of nuclear proliferation, but we need to look at their human rights record too. They're a horrid regime for many reasons, and I don't think that we should be ashamed to talk about the human rights records of other countries and have that be an important factor in our foreign policy objective. I am unapologetic about that. And the Vietnam Human Rights Act will condition aid to Vietnam unless the government meets specific requirements to improve its abysmal human rights record, and it forces us to re-examine our relationship with problematic nations. And that's something we should keep in mind to every country. And the bill that I have, the nuclear cooperation bill, will give Congress the tools necessary to enable us to prevent similar ill-advised agreements in the foreseeable future. The new conditions in the bill are essential to strengthening the nonproliferation apparatus and include such basic steps as requiring that other countries, that they're closely cooperating with the U.S. to prevent terrorists from acquiring weapons of mass destruction, that those countries are not destinations of diversion concern, that they've accepted and acceded to major international conventions regarding nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons, that those countries have established an effective export control system to prevent goods and materials from being sent to countries for use in nuclear weapons program. And in addition, other things that the country must do, it must forego manufacturing nuclear fuel by enriching uranium or reprocessing plutonium unless it already has this capacity in place when it signs its agreement with the United States. I think it's a common sense bill, and it specifies that a proposed agreement with a country that does not meet all of the requirements in the amended AEA will require an affirmative vote by both the House and the Senate. As you know now, we don't have that ability, but this time we would have to vote in favor of that. It's important that Congress act now to put these new protections in place to promote peaceful nuclear activities for the benefit of our U.S. national security interest and for the benefit of the security of the world as a whole. Así que muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great forum. Thanks again for the invitation. And Markey is on his way. Good. Gotta go
All
to
right.
another meeting. Thank you very much. Stop by for the best Cuban coffee in D.C. I can't say that about Miami. No, too much competition. 2206. And Eddie will brew it himself with the foam too. Thank you. Mark, thank you, Henry. Mark, stop by.
I'll see you soon.
All right, thank you. Thank you for everything. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right.